Why certain teachings become more powerful over time. Some teachings are understood immediately, others wait. They remain quiet in memory for years, until life itself creates the conditions to understand them. This is why certain words of Jesus seem simple when first heard, but become profound later. A sentence remembered from childhood can suddenly feel entirely different after suffering, loss, failure, forgiveness, silence, or awakening. Because some teachings are not merely information. They are mirrors, and mirrors only reveal clearly when a person stands still long enough. Part 2 explores 7 more teachings that continue to deepen across time. The narrow gate. One of the most discussed teachings is the narrow gate. The image appears simple: a wide road, a narrow road. Most choose one, few choose the other. But the deeper meaning may not be external difficulty alone. The narrow gate often appears inwardly. It is the small decision against impulse, the quiet refusal to follow automatic reaction, the hidden moment when ego wants applause, but conscience chooses silence. The narrow gate is often invisible to others. It is crossed internally, again and again, and because it is inward, many miss how often they stand before it daily. A harsh word almost spoken, a resentment almost fed, a truth almost avoided, a comfort almost chosen over integrity. The narrow gate is rarely dramatic. It is subtle, which is why it remains difficult. Remove the beam from your own eye. This teaching appears moral on the surface, but psychologically it is revolutionary, because human perception easily magnifies faults outside while hiding conflict inside. Projection is ancient. We see externally what remains unresolved internally. This does not mean all criticism is false. It means self-awareness must precede certainty. Why? Because without self-knowledge, judgment becomes distortion, and distortion feels righteous. The beam teaching is not passive silence. It is disciplined perception. It asks, before speaking, what inside me is shaping what I see? That question alone changes human conflict. The last shall be first. This teaching unsettles worldly measurement, because ordinary systems reward visibility, status, recognition, control. But Jesus repeatedly reverses visible order. The hidden becomes central. The overlooked becomes significant. Why? Because value is not always where attention gathers. Much of what sustains life remains unnoticed. Patience, quiet sacrifice, invisible faithfulness, silent endurance. And history often discovers too late what heaven already valued early. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. This teaching is often reduced to moral behavior, but hunger is stronger than preference. Hunger means necessity. A person hungry for truth cannot remain comfortable with illusion forever. A person thirsty for justice cannot fully rest in convenient indifference. This teaching suggests that spiritual longing itself is sacred, because longing means something inside still recognizes higher order. And that longing often survives disappointment. Let the dead bury their dead. Few sayings sound more shocking at first hearing. Why such severity? Because symbolic language often compresses urgency. This teaching is not contempt. It is intensity, a call that certain awakenings cannot always wait for ideal timing. There are moments when delay becomes loss, moments when inner calling demands immediate response. Not recklessness, but seriousness, because life repeatedly invites awakening, and habit repeatedly postpones it. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. This teaching quietly reveals human structure. Attention follows value. Heart follows investment. What receives repeated energy shapes inner architecture. Treasure here means more than money. It includes thought, obsession, fear, attachment. What is fed inwardly becomes dominant outwardly, which means spiritual life is not only belief. It is repeated placement of attention, and attention slowly becomes identity. Be still and watch. Though often associated broadly with Scripture, this spiritual principle appears deeply aligned with the rhythm of Jesus' life. Withdrawal. Silence, mountain solitude, night prayer. Stillness was not escape. It was alignment, because clarity often returns when noise decreases. Modern life rewards constant stimulation, but consciousness cannot hear deeply through endless noise. Stillness reveals what activity hides. And many people fear silence because silence removes distraction. Yet silence often becomes doorway. Perhaps this is why these teachings remain alive, because they continue changing meaning depending on who hears them and when. A sentence heard in youth becomes different in grief. A sentence heard in success becomes different in failure. A sentence heard casually becomes different in silence. And perhaps that is why true teachings endure, not because they are exhausted quickly, but because they unfold slowly,